Hi, my name is Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. Today we're going to talk to you about Azula in the Spirit Temple, which is the latest Azula comic. Chris, correct me on whatever part of that I said that is almost certainly incorrect. And
The
but
latest Avatar comic.
latest Avatar comic in general, fair enough. Um, do they do those monthly, Chris? Is that a monthly release?
No, not at all.
Not even
They do
close.
these like twice a year,
Whenever
maybe.
they feel like it. Okay, cool, cool. Well, I look forward to you educating me more in the ways of Avatar comics. But before we do that, Chris, how are you? What have you been up to?
I am fine. Up to my same old.
You said that
Nothing new.
more. I have to interpret your tone because you say the same thing every week. So I got to interpret your tone differently each week. You said that more like firm. You're like you're telling yourself I'm fine.
I mean, there's no need for me to like try and boost myself up for any reason. Like, I know I'm not being sarcastic. Everything's
No,
fine.
sure, good, good,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, okay. Yeah, everything's good. How's everything with you, Sean?
Good, Chris. The hot tub saga over here continues. We had it up and it was doing great, but I don't know why. I just like Googled. I was like, hey, how do you keep a hot tub clean? And it was like bromine or chlorine tablets. I was like, well, chlorine smells gross, so I'm gonna try bromine. Um, and then in the course of all this, I learned two things. And one, it's that you don't hear about people using bromine as much because it doesn't work. Probably that little tablet just sat in the cleaner thing like it looked untouched for days. And part of that is just because there's not a lot of like water agitation hitting it, right? It's not like there's
Mm-hmm.
a whole good circulation of water happening. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
slow, so I'll blame that. Um, but it doesn't work. And also, in the course of Googling, I learned that the only reason that chlorine smells like chlorine is it doesn't smell, it doesn't have that much of a smell until it gets peed in. And it is right. So when you're smelling chlorine, you're only smelling it because people peed in it. Something to do with the sugars in your pee or something weird like that. I watched a whole YouTube video on it. Kind of
You
ruins
could have,
women
you could
pools.
have left, you could have left that to yourself, Sean.
No, I gotta share this with the world. If you smell chlorine by a pool, just go somewhere else. Go do. Listen, kids, we're going to the park now, not the pool. Um, oh wait, this is my pool. I guess it's the kids' pool now. So yeah. Anyway, it's
What?
refilling.
What? But did you find out like, oh, chlorine smelling now?
It was a really
Oops.
engaging thumbnail, and it was because I was googling like, hey, like bromine doesn't work, use chlorine and spa or something like that, and it just had a really engaging thumbnail, and also, it had tons of views, and I watched it. This is clearly like a professional YouTuber, and it was just that engaging of a video and a title. Like he just hooked me. I was like, oh, I gotta know, and then he gets to the end and he like proves it with his experiments. I was like, I may never swim again. Ever, even if there's a fire. Um, yeah, the power of. I can't hear you all of a sudden. Did you say something? Did I change something?
No, you're fine, Sean.
Are you
I was
telling
talking to my son,
you
who was
telling your
asking
son
me
to
to get
stop
lunch
peeing
if
in
he can get a
pools?
Lunchable.
Oh, if you pee in this pool,
Even
I'm
though,
gonna.
even though I just told him, "Hey, I'm about to record a podcast. Don't come down there."
Yeah,
Although to his defense, he did not come down here. He just yelled from upstairs.
just wait.
So
Gotta be literal with them kids.
yeah.
Uh, anyway, it's the hot tub's filling back up. Hope you get yours up soon because we have enjoyed it. Other than not necessarily
Well,
making it.
the thing is, I was about to, and then I can't find where this output is to the breaker for the hot tub. Like I don't know where this is at. And I looked underneath my deck.
Problematic.
There's some
Yeah,
type of
it
electrical
is.
stuff. So I don't know. But I'll eventually figure it out. It might be next spring. Not in the
Hmm.
spring. Like next March. Early March, late February.
Well,
Not sure.
if I figure out a cleaning routine that works, I will pass it on to you so you don't have to make the same mistakes or watch the same YouTube videos that I made. Uh that's our whole week, just hot tub stuff. No, Chris, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this comic.
Yes, this comic here that I did not get for free. You know
Great
what? I should have
cover.
reached out to. I should start reaching out to them to get free stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Um, yeah, because comics are nice, and also I could then because I always buy it anyway. But yeah, anyway, yeah, this came out
That's
this
great.
week. Avatar: Last Airbender, Azula in the Spirit Temple, and we're gonna review it. We're gonna do a spoiler-free review. I feel like I'm stealing some of your thunder because you're probably going over this.
No, you're doing great. Knock it out.
Okay. We're first going to do a spoiler free review, and then we'll kind of dive in, do a little bit of a recap and a spoiler review of it. I don't know when exactly. Maybe we'll make everything alert.
Yeah,
But honestly, you'll probably be fine.
you know what? Based on yeah, I can't even say anymore with that spoiler. Yeah, we'll put it in. We'll put the little what do you call it? Chapters. That isn't right. Timestamps. We'll put
Yes.
timestamps, and then we'll holler at you to stop if you care like a whole lot about that. But yeah, I think you will be fine either way if you happen to miss those. But that is just my opinion. That might be giving something away.
True.
Yeah,
All
Chris.
right. So no, Shawn, you go first. I like when you go first for some reason.
Awesome.
What did you think of so far? High level, and we'll anyway. What did you think of this comic?
So coming from a place of very little context, I don't read these comics. I think I've only ever read one
Mm-hmm.
other Avatar comic, which and it's fine. I'm just not a big reader. So coming from a place of very little context, I would say the start of it took me a minute to like get my head in the right place, like into the context of where I was
Yeah.
in the Avatar
Yeah.
universe. It took me a hot minute to put all the pieces together. Like, oh dang, I forgot about and so it had an engaging hook right out of the gate, but I don't know if that was just me kind of like seeing things fresh for the first time, or if it wouldn't feel that way to other people. But it got me right out of the gate. Um, and I will say that the middle portions, the meat of it, I found a little bit do nothing y. I'm gonna say,
Mhm.
right? Like you're expecting. We talk about all the time, so maybe there's bias. Is like at some point we're expecting this kind of Azula redemption story. And as you're reading through this, you kind of get the scope of like a ghost of what do you call it, Christmas Carol, like ghost of Christmas past, present, future thing kind of going on. Like, oh, maybe this is the start of her redemption journey. But in the middle, in the meat of the story, I found it just a little bit do nothing. Like at the end of the day, not a whole lot changed. Things happened, but it didn't affect an outcome to me. So I'm gonna say it started off good. Um, I thought I liked where it was gonna go, but then it's like it never got there. But overall, it kept me hooked from beginning to end in terms of like I did enjoy the entire experience. It was a crisp experience. I'm gonna say 20 minutes, give or take. So a nice crisp experience. It never turned a corner. Never hit a payoff for me.
That is correct. I agree
That's
with
great.
with most what you said. Um, so let me preface this by saying, when they announced this comic book, people are like, "Oh man, Azula might get a redemption arc." I was like, "What are you guys talking about? These comics have been nothing like that. They've been kind of one-off things. If she does somehow get like more redemption arc, then it will be bad writing because it would happen so quick within this small little chapter." And so my expectations for this were never high. It was like, all right, I'll read it when it comes out because I didn't like the three previous ones. I didn't like the Toff's Metal Bending Academy, the Katara Pirate Silver or whatever it was, and the alone. Like none of them. I didn't think any of them were actually good. I just thought they were just like very filler episodes and bad filler at that. Like just whatever filler episodes. Um, so with all that being said, though, probably because I my expectations were where they needed to be at. I like this comic book. It did exactly what I
Okay.
thought it was going to do, and I didn't think it would do any more. I wasn't expecting Azula to get a huge redemption arc or anything really towards that. What this comic does do is that it puts a mirror up to Azula and says like, "Hey, here's everything about you." Um, Something along those lines, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed some deeper looking inside yourself type of stuff. Um, which is it can be the first step in a way to an arc, but to some type of redemption or at least a. I don't think Azula will ever have a redemption arc. She may have a what's a better word for come to Jesus moment, or
I mean,
a realization
that's
arc.
that's always what it was in my house. Or if my
Yeah,
grandma was mad at you, she's like, "I'm gonna send you to Jesus if you want to go."
I think Azula's arc would. I don't think Azula's arc would be a redemption arc, but a realization arc, and this is a one step in that direction. I love the art. I always love the art from the artist's name is. Oh, this is a different artist. I don't think it is. Peter Wortman, and the colors are by Adele Matera. Did they do the last one together? They must have done Smoke and Shine. They must have done all these together because all of this is no, it's different. That's interesting. This person matches the art of um, I can't pronounce the old artist who's doing the comics. It's like I'm gonna try to
It's
Gurihiru.
the inability to
Gurihiru.
pronounce words has never stopped us
Uh,
on this podcast from trying to pronounce them anyway.
and and I've always loved their art because it's a really good translation of the show. And this one is a really good imitation of that. Like I thought it was the same artist. Like I guess now that I see it, I see a little bit of differences, but it's a pretty close translation to that previous nurse ones. But
Um,
there's one panel that I really like that we'll talk about later. Um, just kind of shows Azula's abilities, and yeah. But long story short, I liked the comic book because I knew I wasn't going to get out of it what a lot of people wanted to get out of it.
I I'm a little surprised that you liked it, but what you're saying makes sense. But I'm a little surprised you liked it. But I will say, again, as you mentioned, artwork was great. The cover is awesome. I love the cover. It's a great looking cover.
Yeah, like I love this character design of Azula. Like to
Yeah,
me, it says a lot because, like, sure, she has a royal family type of garb and stuff, but behind that is a cloak that's just tattered and battered and mattered uh,
and
all over.
well, in
And so that kind of says to her like she's no longer of that royalty. Like she has to live like like a peasant. Like those are that's something that a peasant would wear. So it's interesting dichotomy for that character.
it does like symbolizing essentially a fall from grace. Uh,
Mm.
and I'm gonna stand by what I'm saying is that I appreciated that it first and foremost I don't want an Azula redemption arc. I've always been in that camp. I don't want some people can just be bad people until they die, and that's how life works. And she seems like she fits that trope, but it does keep you like teetering. Like the one thing that probably kept me engaged the entire way as she's going through these different iterations of this spirit manifesting, the one thing is you kind of keep waiting for it to happen. Like they've got me on the hook, waiting to see if it will happen. I don't have much issue with that, and I'm assuming that the reason that any comics in this universe, but especially this one now in the context of Avatar Studios having things in the works, is that it can't, it basically can't. They can't do anything that would take away from whatever else they're doing on bigger,
Hmm.
right? So that's going to get worse as we get closer to these other bigger, hopefully somewhat more regular pieces of TV and movie content. I think.
Yeah, the next comics to come out, there's the Iroh and June comic. I'm expecting that to be pretty bad though, to be
So
honest.
that sounds tame.
Um,
Just as soon as you describe the title, not the title, but the subject. Like, what
Yeah,
could they do that would be like, wow, that was amazing, you know?
yeah. And then I think they are doing. I feel like I should be more knowledgeable of this, but I think they are doing a like a Mako in. I'm sorry, like a Mako in Bolin comic. They're also doing a Korra comic. Somewhere over that. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, speaking of Avatar Studios, real quick, they've been taking a lot of L's lately. This is a pretty
oh, I
divergent
haven't heard.
diverge from this conversation, but Avatar Generations, the mobile game, is canceled. I say canceled, but it's cancel. Cancel's not the right word because to me, canceling something is ending something before its release. It's being
Shut down.
terminated. No, that's
Okay,
too
no,
rough.
terminate. Yeah.
Uh,
That's too strong. That's
yeah,
too strong.
yeah. Anyway, it's
Uh,
going away.
yeah.
They
Which,
fired some people in that who the game company who ran it fired a lot of people. They had layoffs. But yeah, they're quitting Avatar Generations, which is sad because it's a Avatar thing. They did release that really great artwork. There's some great artwork they went with it. A lot of people enjoyed the game, but I heard it had
good,
a few issues and
good.
stuff like that.
There's
And
just too much
then
competition in that space.
I'm sorry,
Like,
Sean.
no, there's
Yeah.
just there's way too much competition in that space to make money with anything short of an amazing game. There's too many options on mobile.
Yeah. And then we both know that the Avatar video game isn't great, and I'm still waiting for that to. I think I'll wait till 19.9.
There's
I think I'll
there's a
wait for that.
digital game mill sale right now. It's like physical sale is certainly to follow. Certainly.
Hmm. Yeah, I gotta at least get it physically. Just put in the
Right,
Avatar
I want to put
collection.
one more tally in their sales chart.
Yeah.
I'll be that, but 19.9 is my spot for sure. Yeah, well, you know what? It's a bit of a shame because Avatar Universe seems like it would just be a relatively easy, like, open-ish world adventure, and it doesn't even have to be open world if that's the deal breaker on cost and developing something quality. Like, it can be linear. I don't care. It just seems
Yeah.
like it would be a great atmosphere for a game. But whatever, it's fine. Um, Come back strong, Avatar Studios on the game side, or I gotta be honest, or just don't develop your own games, or don't like just
Hey, just take a break for a minute,
yeah.
recoup, figure out what you really want to do. The thing is, again, the Legend of Korra game, which they were heavily involved in, was a good game. I enjoyed that game. Had a nice little addition to the lore. Gameplay was sound. The I think it looked good. Like it looked great. It wasn't like some like Gen 5 kind of deal, but
No, it was fine. Like it was aesthetically appropriate. So like it didn't look good or
yeah,
bad, but you didn't notice. It just looked how it was supposed to look.
it didn't look like a GameCube game.
No, right? It looked like a PlayStation 3 game that
Yeah,
also just happened to be available on the PlayStation 4, which is fine.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that was a fine game, and it's not that we can't be happy with just that game, but it would be nice to have a slightly more adventurous in gameplay tone in the last Airbender portion of the universe. Uh, that's all.
Mhm.
But oh well, easier said than done. And hey, listen, maybe we'll play the new game mail game and we'll be blown away. It'll defy our
And
expectations. It's not going to, but
sure.
maybe it will. Um, yeah. Well, speaking of back to not disappointing because obviously enjoyed the comic, but like setting that expectation being important of what they can and cannot do. And I also, Chris, I don't know a lot about comics. I'm trying to self educate as we go right this instant, but like that's the biggest difference between like having different iterations of Batman where you've got Batman in your own Batman universe and like that is the only iteration of that Batman universe. So you can do what you want. Like your the whole world is your oyster versus what we have here of Avatar Studios, you know, dealing with their own comics and their
Yeah.
own one canon universe.
there's one canon across comics, TV, multiple TV shows, and now film. There's one Avatar canon.
And that's a little bit Star Warsy. Little bit Star Warsy. For better and or worse. Um, Chris, any final generic thoughts before we go through some specifics?
Um, no.
Awesome. All right, so I said I'll say that this is the part where at 20 minutes, Chris, when I'm doing my little timestamp, 20 minutes is where we'll say spoilers. Spoilers from here on out. Um, in terms of very literally just discussing details, but also again, it I can't stress enough. You're not going to be heavily offended by hearing us talk about what goes on in here because there's no twist, there's no hook, there's no nothing. You'll be like, oh man, I wish I'd have seen that in person for the first time. So, but spoilers, spoiler alert. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk. Let's chat. You know what? I'm gonna go first again. I did love. So like she's running through this forest and she gets to this temple, this spirit temple.
Mm.
And she goes in, and that's like it's just one of my favorite tropes, and it is a trope, but it is a good way to fit in side stories, right? Is like you're a little bit lost in a forest or a wherever, and you wander into this random temple that happens to, in this case, be inhabited by a spirit. It's just a nice way that my brain is okay with um, initiating these side stories that can still have bigger things happen, even if they can't have sort of larger real world consequences. So I'm totally okay with that. I like that whole thing, the whole setup.
Yeah, it's a really good setup. It's very easy to get indoctrinated into this world with this setup because it's a familiar one. Also, it's this book I do think appropriately came out on Halloween because this has
Yeah, it's
kind of
kind of
that
terrifying.
scary element to it. Like, oh, I'm lost in the middle of the woods. I gotta go to this cabin. This is a cabin in the woods
Yeah,
type of deal.
which great movie by the way. One of my favorite movies actually of the horror genre, not all time.
Everyone hyped that movie up, and I watched it, and
It
I didn't
it
like
is
it.
because it's creative to see that like what could be the origin of all horror movies essentially, right? And
Ah, okay.
it, and I think we all, and I said we, I'm not like hardcore horror, but the horror audience, I think, identified really hard with like, hey, that's a really creative way to explain every horror movie ever. Um,
Okay.
Also, I really like the guy in there that plays the dad in Step Brothers. I forget his name, but anyway, he's like the
Yeah,
boss.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, Cabin in the Woods. It is a good setup. It has a nice spooky theme to it, and again, I'm gonna go back to Christmas Carol where it's not horror, but it's suspenseful, right?
Yeah.
And again, putting that mirror up to yourself, and it sets that tone pretty early. Essentially, Azula starts trying to manipulate this nice old lady that's letting her stay in this cabin in the woods that can only be found by people who already know where it is. And Azula's like, "Hey, why keep the good bedroom to yourself?" You know, and I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of funny. Um,
Was Azula doing that manipulative stuff like, oh, if you were so kind, you would give me that bedroom.
Yeah, I thought that was great. So well, that again is being in earlier in the comic that was helping me get back into Azula mode of thought
Mm.
process. So in the first sort of major scene, I'm gonna say you just immediately know that she's dreaming, right? She's dreaming of all these people that she, like all of her family and stuff, on the what's the
Yeah.
name of the beach house?
Yeah.
Uh,
I do want to set it up a little bit.
oh, please, please.
So Zula, first of all, was trying to go burn down like rice stalks, and Tylee stopped her. Zula has this group
I did
that she's
skip
calling
over that. I'm sorry.
the Fire Warriors now, huh?
No, you're right. I basically skipped over the entire
Ah,
intro to the story. Shame on me.
Later flash. You skip over like the first 26 out of 75 pages. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a big
Um,
chunk. Shame on me. Maybe well,
um,
that part wasn't as
is it?
memorable to me. I was just like, this all set up for the next thing.
No, you're right. It's just setup. The setup is Azula is still trying to cause trouble. she has a new group of people called the Fire Warriors, which I thought they were the Kimari Kage. Which, side note, I'm mad at myself that I didn't couldn't translate. I was like, oh, what does Kimari Kage mean? Like Kage, I should know what Kage means from watching Naruto. Kage means shadow, and then Kimari means smoke. The comic book that they came out with is called Smoke and Shadow, and I was like, oh, that's why it's called Smoke and Shadow. But and so in Naruto, Kages are the leaders of each village, and and the reason why they're called Kage is like if you're the shadow of the village, you're the one that overwatches the village. And so there's a different Kages for each village, which are named after like elements, I guess. Yeah, because there's a fire Kage, because that's the Hokage. Anyway, not important. The only important part is that Azula is a Kage. If any Naruto fans are out there. Anyway, to go back to the book, she has this group of fire warriors. One of their people gets captured by Tylee's people. They want to go back and save her, and Azula's like, no, she knew what she was getting into. We're not gonna save her. And then they leave in the morning to go save her, and Azula tries to track them down because she wants to get revenge on them for leaving her, same way that Ty Lee and May left her.
And doesn't one
She's
of
gonna
them
make
straight
them
up say
pay.
like she's never gonna let us leave, is she? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of horrifying in its own right. She's gonna kill us.
Yeah. Oh, the panel that I love is I love this panel here of Azula. She's like jumping in midair with like lightning coming out both hands. I love that panel. It's just like I love lightning powers to begin with. Her just like going like I can just hear the like but then Ty Lee handles her because Ty Lee's a BA also.
Not to
Um,
mention Tylee's still probably like peak Tylee training with Kyoshi Warriors where we're kind of getting maybe slightly not out of practice, but just not top form Azula.
yeah. Um, so then Azula gets lost in the woods, and that's how she ends up in the woods and in that creepy temple. And the old lady is like, "Oh, hey, take my bed, whatever, sure, anything to please you." And Azula starts having, like you said, those dreams,
If I was that
and
old lady
her,
and Azula's like, if you're really that kind, I'd be like, I'm not. Get your ass on that mat over there. It's nice enough to let you into my building.
yeah,
That's where I draw the line.
like what would Azula say?
What right up to? Oh,
She,
jeez.
yeah. And so this whole what this book is that Azula's no longer how she was crazy. At least I don't think she is. She's not like hearing her mom and stuff like she was in the search. In the search, she was like full blown schizophrenic. She really was. Like she showed. I'm not. I am not a trained psychologist. I am not any type of psychologist. But from what I hear, that is. And well, actually, I've experienced friends having schizophrenia. Um, but that's how they act. They hear things that aren't there. And that's how she was in the search. And she's no longer like that. But she's a little bit more of herself.
But also get your psychiatric
Uh,
consultation officially from somebody else other than us. Not that Chris is
yes.
wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Um, but so my point I think I was trying to make is that so Zula is no longer kind of suffering with a lot of that mental illness. She could still have some left over. Definitely, she's been dealing with trauma her whole life. Um, but here, but this journey that she's going through is kind of her delusions of grandeur in the sense of the way she sees the world is not reality, and that is not. Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as a mental illness. I would describe it as being narcissistic, if that's the right
No, I think
definition.
they're good.
Or
Also, not a psychiatrist, but that sounds like the right thing to me. based on limited knowledge.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
I've been watching Brooklyn Nine Nine, and that's the thing that ends the whatever production company. It's always not a doctor.
Not a doctor. At the end of the every episode.
Yeah. Um, so as part of that, one of these scenes, it's like everything is great, right? Like the first one, Ozai says, like all these people are here. Some of them are dead, have been long dead. Like her grandfather Zulon is there. Her great grandfather Sozin is there, who has never been alive since she's been alive. Like these are people that's in her life or that she admires. But I guess she had a crush on that one guy. Maybe she secretly had a crush on that one guy because that's not Chan. That's a
Yeah, it's
different
the other
guy that was
dude.
like
Yeah.
near Ty Lee.
I think jealousy is what I'm
Nameless.
going to attribute that.
Maybe, ooh, yeah, yeah, that's good. But all the people are here that I think she and somewhat in a way admire or are close to and wants their admiration and adoration. Yes. Um, like all of them are there, and they say loving things to her, and even her mom says, "I'm so
Can
proud
be
of you."
schlocky, lovey things to her.
Yeah, and then on the other side of it, she May another kind of May is like, "This isn't real. Like you think like none of this is actually true." And then Zula wakes up from that nightmare, and the lady, the innkeeper lady, is like, wait, you had a nightmare? Like you were supposed to have like a good dream. Like that's not like Azula's so effed up in the head that this is almost a I wouldn't say it's a nice spirit. It's not. I feel like it's related to the Fog of Lost Souls in the sense that the Fog of Lost Souls wants to keep you there and like drain your life by putting you in a situation and in a mindset that is so hard to climb out of.
Well, I was thinking like the
It's,
Matrix, where I was like, hey, you just stay in your little mental happy place and I'm going to eat your
mm,
soul or whatever. That's what I take it
yeah.
as. So,
This one is like, hey, I'm giving you a chance to like give you this little win that you need, or show you a world where you get exactly what you want, and that's gonna make you feel better and stuff. But for Azula, no, it's turned into a freaking nightmare.
yeah, terrifying. And so then the spirit's
Yeah.
just like, get out.
Yes, which is interesting. Because the spirit's freaking weird. I don't know if the old lady is a spirit, but I feel like there's two spirits here, maybe more. There's the old lady, then there's the temple itself.
Okay. Oh, I didn't think about that. I took it as that, when I read it, and it's not because it's the right way. When I read it as one spirit, but I was having a hard time reading the spirit's
Hmm.
tone in certain places, like their tone and intention wasn't resonating very well as I was reading it. So eventually I developed this notion like, no, it's just a kind of a crazy, unpredictable evil spirit. Just a little chaotic. But
Yeah, well,
I
I
like the
was
temple itself as a spirit because that would explain like, hey, how come nobody else ever stumbled on this temple before or talked about it before or whatever.
Well, yeah, the only reason why I did that because the old lady at first was like, "You need to leave. You need to get out of here." Like as if she's warning her, like this temple is going to
Oh.
devour you. Like you need to get out of here.
Oh, I took it as a
Later
command, like
on,
you messed with
she
my.
does become like monstrous.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say I took it the other way, just like you messed with my game plan. I don't know what to do with you. Get out. But I kind of like what you said better.
Yeah. And then she kind of goes into a flashback, which just seems like a legit flashback in the temple, and not just like a
Not just a fever dream, but an actual
yes, yeah,
internal flashback.
yeah. So Azula's first time firebending, she firebends this turtle duck. And this is weird. Like, this is the weirdest part of the book, and probably the flashpoint of Azula's life. Could be. Because in a child's head, anything could be a freaking flashpoint. So, Azula firebends for the first time. Her mother is like, oh, you firebended. She's not like overjoyed to have it, just like, you firebended. And Ozai is like, she's firebending. Like he calls her a prodigy and it's wonderful, and he picks her up gleefully. That was
To
weird.
turn tell a turtle.
I've never seen that from Ozai before. Just that sheer happiness. It's a the only time, and it looks weird to me. The only time Ozai has ever looked this weird to me is in Aang's fever dream of him being like, "You overslept, sleepyhead." The invasion. That's so weird.
And then mom's
Um,
response to all this is just, "You are your father's daughter," and I was like, "Well, that's a nice way to mom
yeah,
mom beat around the bush a little bit, you know."
yeah. And in a way, that is Azula. You know, Azula finally got some admiration from her father, some love, and it was because of her strength. And so she, throughout her life, valued that strength really more than anything.
It's like it's like laughing when your kid says a word, a bad word for the first time you weren't expecting it, and so it catches you off guard, and then you laugh, and then they do it again because they're like, "Oh, that made Dad laugh."
Hmm. And then it's a really interesting panel here where like reality shatters a little bit. Like it splinters from what actually happened to what she wished had happened. Because then her mom is like, "Oh, I am really proud of you," and so and so. Like you have a firebending at such a young age. Zula's like, "Wait, that's not what happened. My mother wasn't happy I was a firebender. She was afraid." And then she says, "So this is probably one of the most poignant. Dang it, that sounds stupid.
Poignant.
Poignant. There we go. There we go. Because my mother wasn't happy I was a firebender. She was afraid. Afraid for me? Afraid of me? Wait, there's no question mark there. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Let me reread that. I was a. She was afraid. Afraid for me. Afraid of me. Wasn't she? Question mark. So like Azula admitted, I think for the first time, that her mom wasn't afraid of her, but she was afraid for her. But then she had to like course correct to what Azula's reality is. Like, no, she was afraid of me, but she's still not even sure. And
Um,
then the spirit gets weird and like it starts climbing walls. This is a freaky panel here. Like her legs and arms are like the same. I don't know. It's weird, but it's a good
her
weird.
feet are hands.
That's what's weird about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Took me a minute too, because I was looking, it's like, why is this wrong?
Uh,
Um, and at this point, I think is when I think to myself as a reader, like, oh, yeah, this is kind of Halloween horror stuff going on here, right? Because up
mm,
to this point, just like kind of creepy dreams and messy mental flashback bits. It's like, oh, now there's an actual monster in the room that is what do you call it? Supposing violence upon Azula.
yeah, yeah. And then Ty Lee shows up, and that's weird because you think for a second that it's actually Ty Lee, but she's so different to everything. I was like, this has to be a spirit, and it is. And then the spirit is like weird, like talking to Azula and stuff. And then Azula sees her mom again. Um, oh, another interesting spot. Azula's really messed up in the brain. She always has been. Like Azula sees a vision of her mother, and 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 she says, "You chose Zuko over me. You saved him by hoping to poison Grandfather Zulon, and then you left. You abandoned me. You weren't there to protect me from Dad, so I became what he wanted, his deadly firebending weapon. I didn't have a choice." Which is a there's a little truth there, but it's weird to say. Uh, and then Azula continues, "If you just let Dad kill Zuko, you could have stayed with me. You would have protected me from him. I wouldn't be this." That's effed up. Like, she blames her mother for not letting her son be killed so that she could stay with her.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
what?
multiple levels, like blaming mom for not letting Zuko be killed, and in turn blaming then mother for the way that she turned out. It's a whole. First of all, it's a messed up accusation and then a zero accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say
Interesting
this is
stuff.
the point. To me, this is the point where I, it feels like what I would describe as sort of hints of redemption more than anything. Like your brain's already kind of going there as you're reading, but it's here as you like that implies a certain amount of regret for the way that she is, and that kind of feels like the first
Yeah.
step. So this is when your brain started like, oh, it's starting to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think things as you're reading this, you do think, oh, by the end, Azula will come to the realization, like, maybe I am at fault for a lot of the bad things that happened in my life. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that in this comic book
Same.
because I don't think this is the right avenue to do that in. Not that a comic can't be, but this very short page comic book isn't the right place to do it. So I'm kind of glad that by the end of it, she's just like, eh, f these people.
Just back to denial, right? She's still in her metamorphosing stage. Um, nah, she's probably pre that, but
I like how her. Oh wait, Azula, Tylee's spirit or just Tylee evil spirit thing does this neck roll thing that is super creepy.
do you have the panel up by any chance?
Oh yeah, so it says like roll.
Like an owl.
So clearly she does this probably 200-degree neck turn. Anyway, and this Tyler Spirit goes on to say like you believe a lot of the nonsense. Like how could you believe that we were actually friends despite you threatening my life to force me to join your Avatar line? And Azula thinks like Azula says, I gave you the chance to do something important instead of wasting your days performing for crowds of peasants. Like what Azula considers to be important is way different than what's actually important. But she doesn't still doesn't come to that realization.
And as you said earlier, it's not the right medium in this moment for that anyway.
Yeah. Then she starts seeing more spirit. She sees the spirit of Zuko. Uh, and then like the spirit of Zuko like asks her like, "Will you ask for forgiveness?" And nope, she zaps him. So it's like,
Um,
"F you! I'm never wrong. I'm Azula."
and that's when your brain turns off that the hope for redemption. That's when your brain's like, yeah, maybe next time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Azula fights the spirit, and then the spirit turns into this giant monster. This actually would be a really. I think this could be a really great filler episode. Like almost like I know it's very much like the beach because in the beach, Azula has that my own mother thought I was a monster and stuff. Like she starts getting to a little bit of her psyche, and then she ends it with, and she was right, of course. And this is kind of the same thing. Just like all these people think this way of me, and think I'm this, but they're wrong. I'm right. I'm great. It's very she's very delusional.
Um,
Oh man, I'm sorry. Go, Shawn.
well, I was to say, as long as there's a good amount of separation, which there would be in between that episode and the beach, I don't know if I can have too much Azula self realization in a short span of time. Gotta spread that stuff out.
The giant's worm spirit says this temple is a crossroads for those who have followed the wrong path. It offers a second chance to choose for the better. And then um, Azula pretty much. Oh, Azula says. I feel like this is like almost breaking the fourth wall to people who want her to have a redemption arc. She says, "Redemption and apologies are for the weak. I owe nothing." And I'm almost like, that's Azula
And
right there.
she looked right in the camera when she said it.
Huh?
I said she looked right in the camera when she said it.
Yeah,
Right
like
into the artist's
honestly, looking
eyes.
looking at the page, she's looking straight at the viewer. Yeah, straight on.
Yeah, that's Deadpool
Uh,
caliber breakage right there. That's nice.
and
Um,
then she goes on to say, "I am Azula, daughter of Ozai, the Phoenix King. I am the rightful Fire Lord, and I do not take kindly to meddling spirits." And then I love this panel. Yeah, great artwork. Like
oh
this
yeah,
is like very anime esque, like
yeah,
hair
yeah.
flowing up because power surging.
She got some Dragon Ball hair going on there for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. Chef. To me, that's Chef's kiss right there. Which makes me. I think as I'm going over this, I think I like this comic book a lot more than I thought it would. There's just a little bit. There's just a lot of good stuff in here. I think. And also, again, my expectations weren't that we were going to get some Azula redemption arc. This is like this hits exactly what I thought it would be.
So you like this comic book because you like being right, and that's awesome. Vindicated.
You foolish people thought you was going to get a redemption.
That's the moral of this episode of
There's not.
Avatar: The Last
I
Airbender.
only
You fools! Incredible.
Azula, she doesn't kill the spirit. I think she does. But the spirit gets away.
I
Um,
didn't interpret it
she
as
she
killing.
defeats it. She definitely defeats the
Yeah.
spirit. And then she ends up catching up to her fire warriors. But instead of like exacting vengeance on them, she just says like they're unworthy of her leadership, and she'll find new followers and a new place to rule. Sorry.
Uh, you? No, I'm just kidding. That's a pretty thorough recap of the comic
Yeah,
book.
it is, yeah.
Basically, we basically read it. No, I as far as my limited comic experiences went, like I said, at the worst I can say is that I was engaged the whole way. The best I can say is that like is not real high stakes. Wait,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I needed that to reverse. The worst I can say is not real high stakes. Best I can say is I was happily engaged the whole way. Yeah, sorry, I had it backwards for
Yeah.
some reason. Um, highlights, nice artwork, nice side story setting and setup. Low lights is just like every other comic that's going to come after this. In the universe, is there's going to be limitations on what they can do, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Until Frank Miller comes along and he's like, I want to do my own Avatar universe, all in
Oh my
comics.
gosh. I was just watching. I was just watching the animated movie Batman Year One. The comic book is one of my favorite comic books of all time. And it's a very gritty book. Like it's. I was literally watching this yesterday. And Frank Miller is the writer of Batman Year One. And like things are just a little bit more dark, or just a little bit more grimy. Like there's this passage where one thing, there's a passage where like Commissioner Gordon is going to Wayne Manor to interview Bruce Wayne because he thinks he could be Batman, and this is like early Batman time, and Bruce Wayne has hired, I believe, a hooker to pretend to be a foreign and speak no language. And so when Commissioner Gordon comes over there, Bruce Wayne is like just in a robe with like no underwear on, and Commissioner Gordon is with his wife who's pregnant, and Bruce
Awesome.
Wayne is just like legs open and stuff, like, oh, hello there, like, oh, I didn't introduce you to. He's like, oh, you think I'm this Batman character? He's pretending to be like drunk and stuff. He's like, oh, I didn't introduce you to my friend here. She doesn't speak any language I know except one. And he's just being a total jerk, total womanizer. And he's like, "You think I could be this Batman fella, huh?" And and he ends up, and then like when, and then they end up leaving, and Commissioner Gordon's wife is like, he's an a hole. Like, there's no way he could be like Batman. And Commissioner Gordon's like, I mean, person might go that far to really convince people that he's not Batman. And then when they're all gone, the girl is like, am I like, you guys are weird. You pay me money and they just tell me to act and shut up and stuff. Like, this is not a good time. And then Batman, Bruce Wayne is like, it's the easiest 5 grand you ever made. Like, get out of here. Like, he hired her just to throw off Gordon.
It's the mean side of Bruce Wayne. Get out of here, whore.
Pretty much.
That's probably too far.
Like,
Too
that's what I'm
strong.
saying. It's the easiest 5 grand you ever made. Sounded so like mean and
That's pretty harsh,
derogatory.
yes.
Like I could have made you do so much worse stuff. All you got to do was just sit there and pretend you didn't speak English. Get
In
out of here.
Chris, the Frank Miller avatar is the one where Azula and Ozai act much sooner, and they just kill a bunch of people. Just less planning,
Yeah.
just a whole lot more insta murder. That's gonna be the whole.
They probably would have painted Iroh in the worst picture because Commissioner Gordon in year one is like cheats on his wife, cheats on his pregnant wife with a coworker. He does something else that no, that's pretty much it. That's what he does
Well,
is really
that's why.
bad. It's
Well,
cheating on his
then
wife.
that's why we would come around to it would be a better arc for Iroh because we'd get to see more of the low Iroh before you get to the good Iroh.
People can't accept a low Iroh.
They can't.
I'm
It'll
tired of people hyping up
it'll
Iroh. I got in
break
some type of
people.
argument with
It'll break
someone.
people.
They were like, "Oh, because Greg
Because remember we had
Baldwin
the episode
said,
a
give me
few
your
probably a couple
Greg
months ago.
Baldwin, the second voice of Avatar, said, give me your unpopular Avatar opinion." And I said, like, Toph is one thing. Oh my gosh, people. I said, Toph is overrated in her strength. Granted, she is the greatest Earthbender ever. And people are like, dude, you're underrating Toph. I just said she was the greatest Earthbender ever, but people act like she can take on Magneto or something in the X-Men universe, and people are still like, "Dude, why are you talking bad about Toph?" I just said she was the greatest Earthbender, but people just think that you know. And then I told someone, and then I said like, "Well, then Iroh got his son killed," and and, and his person was like, "How do you figure out?" I was like, "Well, his son, pretty much that's what I told you before." And then he was like, "You got all that from like a character who barely showed up." And then I showed him like, and Lieutenant's last words to Iroh in the letter said, "To my dear father, I'll meet you after we win the war. Your loyal son, Lieutenant." I'm like, that sounds like he admired his father a lot, and that he was very
That's pretty
much
nurture language, I would call that.
yeah, he was very much trying to win this war. You know, this war that people die in, that Iroh is leading.
Pretty big part.
Like, yeah, gotta stop hyping up Iroh, man. Iroh's responsible for countless deaths and stuff. Also, you're doing a disservice to his arc. You want to be like, oh, Iroh was innocent in all this, but what's the point of the arc?
There's
There's
no
no arc
arc
if
if he was
he's.
always a good person. You're right. You're right.
But
Um,
anyway,
Chris, thanks for walking us
that's my
through the
tangent
comic book.
for the day.
Looking forward to the next one. Also, I just feel like I gotta start hyping this now because it's like Chris applied for the booth at Comic Con or for the pardon me the panel, and we just talking about prizes and stuff, and I'm getting hyped. So we will
Yeah, even though it's like 5 months from now,
5, yeah,
but
a solid 5
it's in March.
March. So less than 5 then,
17th? Okay. Okay.
4.5, a third of
Ugh.
the year. But listen, it's a busy third of the year,
Yeah.
so we'll keep hyping that up.
But
But in the meantime, thanks
I'm gonna
for
show all the prizes we have, which I'll probably show some other point. The Smoking Shadow comic book that I got on sale.
great,
Everything I got for
great,
sale. Just got these bad boys.
nice. Oh, that looks great.
These are great. This is like my favorite pops. These Kyoshi Spirit World pops. Got 2 of these because I was like, yeah, well, I'll get 2.
Yeah, they look awesome.
Um, let's see. Got a King Boomy pop.
as you should.
A lot of McFarlane action figures. That I also got for sale. Another one. Have three of these. This is like the finale uh, action figure set. Has Azula, Zuko, Ozai, and Aang. Got three of those. And then I just got this Katara statue,
Oh, that's
which is a
awesome.
great,
That's
yeah,
great.
great statue. And then, so Hobby Lobby had some Avatar stuff on sale. I decided I was going to keep one of these things because I like it too much. Um, but there's this Avatar like wooden kind of poster. I must have got this for $5 because it's $9. I got
Oh,
it
that's
50%
sick.
off. So yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah,
We got
well
like
maybe I
2
will
years
keep
worth
it.
of prizes
Maybe I
here,
will
man.
keep it. But this is one that I think I will keep. It's like a it's
Oh,
like
that's
a
adorable.
shadow bots
Yeah. No,
kind
that
of
looks
deal.
great.
So this probably will not be a prize. I think I will just keep this to myself. But yeah, it has like you've seen this artwork before in the
Mhm.
background, right? And then
And
this is just
I don't know
Aang.
what it's called, but I know the art that you're referencing, the piece of
Yeah.
art. Yeah, that's
So
awesome. Um, I said you got like a
yeah.
whole treasure trove there,
And
man.
then Shawn has a couple things also. So we got a lot of prizes.
A couple figures, couple pops, nothing crazy, but stuff. Yeah. So hey, yeah, keep your ears peeled. We'll keep hyping that up for the next 4.5 months. I say it's the busiest 4.5 months. It'll go like nothing.
Honestly, it is.
It
November,
is.
December, January, and as you know, it's February. February is short.
Very short. January isn't busy, but you're like reveling that you survived another holiday season. So, you spend a lot of that time reveling.
Mm.
Yeah, March will be here before you know it. Thanks for watching Avatar The Last Podcasters. My name's Shawn. That's Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek. As always, I'll put all the stuff down in the description, but if you want to leave us any kind of likes, comments, subscriptions, reviews, whatever, we appreciate
Click
all of it.
that like button right now. I
Just
should have told you
smash that like
before.
button, hit the bell for notifications. What's the
Don't
other
hit the
thing they
bell
can
for
do?
notifications.
Uh, what's the other things they
When I
can do?
started adding on to it, I was like, oh no, this is too much.
You
Just
and you can't click the like button, Chris. You gotta smash it. You gotta
make
click
sure
the
you smash
you gotta click
them.
the hell out of that like button.
I make fun of them, but I get it.
No, I mean it's part.
Especially
Listen,
especially if this is what you do to try to make any like.
Chris, we
I
both worked
never
in retail, and we understand like to survive in a space, like you gotta do what you gotta do. I get it, absolutely.
I never tried to play the YouTube game, and honestly, sometimes I feel like, man, I should have tried a little harder. I could have did this different because there are some Avatar channels that are way newer than mine, and they're doing great. And so I'm like, man, I would have just did this. And there's admittedly a hint of jealousy there, but also
Sure,
I know
that's normal. That's
that I
natural.
wouldn't have been able to like sustain even like a video a week
Yeah, those people
because
are.
I was just
That's their job, man. Uh, Not they don't all have another job or families or whatever, but like that's their focal point. That's where they think they're taking their future. And that's great. Good for them, and I'm never opposed to more good content, especially about stuff that I like. I'd be really bad at playing the YouTube game, but I don't think that's for me, which is fine. I do like writing and editing videos
I
just for
miss
my own
I
artistic
do
benefit or
yeah.
my own artistic expression, right?
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
care as much about once I'm done creating them, like, all right, I'll just put them out in the world and I'll forget about it. That's it.
I miss finding. I do miss writing an essay. Like, all right, I have a point I want to make. I want to support it. Then, all right, I wrote the essay. Now I need to go record it. That's bars. Um, And then, all right, I gotta go get the right images. I want to put this clip right here, and then I go find the music that I want. I go search all these different free music places. Like, all right, no, not that one, not that one. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that one. Then I'm gonna cue it down here, and then cross over to this next one. Like all that stuff was like really fun to do, and I haven't done that in years. But yeah, it was a really good way to get out that creative expression.
Hmm?
Which now I get out my creative expression mostly with action figures, which is also great. I
I
love doing that.
I don't have a great medium right now, but I probably need to. I think that's important to have in your life. I should sit and introspect on what that should be or what that is. But yeah, I always like that part.
Mm.
Like I said, once you get to like, as soon as it's up on YouTube, it's like, ugh, now I feel like I gotta share it on
All
social.
right.
I feel like I have to share it on social media, and I just like, ugh, I just can it just live out there? I don't know. But anyway, um, hey, next week we'll talk about the I forget what the Netflix thing
Yeet.
is.
There should be an
Oh,
Avatar trailer for the Netflix show, so that'll be really interesting, and we'll have lots to talk about that.
yeah, we'll do that next week. It'll be great. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Holy crap! It's 10:19 already. That took way longer than I expected. That's okay.
Very in-depth look at the comic. Very earnest, though. I like that.
I just bought this fence